What is up, A-Team? Welcome back. Awesome here. Hope everyone's having an awesome day. Or not, depending on where you're at, but I hope it is awesome. And yes, we're here to talk more about some crypto. As you guys know, yesterday was the crypto summit at the White House. It was highly anticipated. A lot of people were talking about it. A lot of people were hoping that the markets would turn around. And unfortunately, we were let down. And again, I'm not the only person that was let down. I think the entire community out there of crypto was let down. Everyone was showing frustration yesterday because not only was it just kind of a lame video of people just sitting around a table and there was not a lot put out there as to what was discussed or what they came to. Some people are actually thinking that we were going to have it on TV. Maybe we could watch it. None of that, right? And then on top of that, they ended up putting the World Cup ceremony before. It was just super weird, super weird. I'm not the only one saying this. So people were just disappointed. And I think rightfully so. Because I think there was a lot of hype to it. It seems like we get a lot of hype and then the market's tank. And as you can see right now, the markets are down. At the time of this filming, we're down about 2.15%, still back down to 2.84 trillion. The market has been definitely getting liquidated over the last couple of days, and still, even over the last 24 hours, you can see right over here that it's been liquidated to $425 million, which is insane. The largest one being 17.15 million being liquidated in the largest liquidation event on Bitfinex. So you can see that people are still getting liquidated even after we saw the crypto summit come out here, all the things discussed. With all that being said, the big thing that led up to this week was probably the biggest thing out here in the signing of a U.S. digital asset stockpile on top of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And so one thing that was actually separated out this week that gave us some clarity is that the United States government is actually going to focus on a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and they're also going to focus on a U.S. digital asset stockpile. So the difference between those is that one's going to be just for Bitcoin, and the other one's going to be for mostly all the altcoins out there. So a lot of people were actually excited about this. We saw the markets actually start to go back up. A lot of us were like, heck yeah, the summit's going to be this Friday. We're going to talk a lot about this. However, on Thursday, which was March 6th, leading up to the White House summit for crypto, the executive orders were signed, and a lot of details came out into what those executive orders were. And I think the biggest takeaway from this, and you can see right here on the whitehouse.gov where this executive order lays, it tells you everything you need to know about sort of where the government's going to go, where the U.S. government's going to go when it comes to the strategic Bitcoin reserve and what they were going to plan on doing here. And one of the biggest things, and probably the biggest letdown for a lot of people here in crypto, was that the order basically said that the strategic Bitcoin reserve will be capitalized with Bitcoin owned by the Department of Treasury that was forfeited as part of a criminal or civil asset forfeitures proceedings, meaning that we're not buying any more Bitcoin at this point. That's basically saying that we're only going to stockpile any Bitcoin that was actually collected because of any criminal or civil, basically, proceedings that we collected that from, right? That we ended up going out there and seizing, basically. A good example would be like Silk Road. And so a lot of people were like, wait a second, so we're going to not buy any more Bitcoin. And yeah, it says right here, the United States will not sell Bitcoin into the strategic Bitcoin reserve, which will then be maintained and stored as a reserve asset. And so really what it's coming down to saying is they're not going to sell any of these, but at the same time, it's also saying that they're not going to purchase any of these. And so it's kind of like a downer in a way. I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, I think we all read this and go, wait a second, so what is our plan then to stockpile more Bitcoin? And unfortunately, this executive order doesn't tell us what we're going to do to buy more Bitcoin. And so it's kind of like, well, I guess we'll have to sort of wait and see again. Because like it says right here, that they want to develop a budget neutral strategy for acquiring additional Bitcoin, but they also don't want to be at the cost of American taxpayers. So again, I don't know how they're going to actually add more Bitcoin if they're not using American taxpayer dollars, because usually that's how a lot of government projects are funded. So it's just kind of, we're up in the air now. And there's not a lot of uncertainty with this. I think another one of the big disappointments here was that we separated the Bitcoin digital, or the Bitcoin reserve, from the U.S. digital asset stockpile. On top of this, you had David Sachs, who is the crypto czar, coming out and basically saying that the only reason that Trump actually talked about XRP and ADA and Solana was because it was a top 5 crypto, which obviously caused a little bit of some fear, uncertainty, and doubt out there, because people are going, wait a second, so are we not going to be stockpiling those either? And again, with this executive order right here, you can see that the U.S. government is looking to establish a U.S. digital asset stockpile, which is basically like we're going to be looking at altcoins, anything other than Bitcoin. And it said also the government will not acquire additional assets for the U.S. digital asset stockpile beyond those obtained through forfeiture proceedings. Same thing as Bitcoin. So again, what is the strategy to actually acquire more of the altcoins that are out there? And the answer is we do not know. The answer is we do not know exactly what's going to be done. What we do know is that it was asked, and there was something put out there saying that we are going to give 30 days to all of the United States government agencies out there to come forward with an audit or an audit sheet of their entire budget, and basically if they're holding any cryptos. And if they are holding cryptos, then we need to know about it so that we can actually add that to the stockpile. So maybe here in 30 days, we'll have a better idea of what all of the United States government owns in terms of crypto. But the unfortunate thing is that right now we kind of do not have a strategy as to if we're going to buy anymore, which again, I think is a reflection of the markets right here. As you can see, I mean, the markets have been down and plummeting since Thursday when we learned about this, and going into Friday when we had the summit here. So that is where we're at right now. However, there is some positivity that did come from this, in that we are looking at it. And when I say we, I mean the United States government is looking at this as digital gold. So they are looking at Bitcoin as digital gold, which is a really good thing, right? I mean, if we're sitting here saying, hey, we want to be the number one owner of actual physical gold, then we also want to be the number one owner of what we call digital gold, and that is of Bitcoin here. And so I think it's nice to see that the United States government and President Trump are actually pushing to hold more Bitcoin, because right now it says that Bitcoin have already cost U.S. taxpayers over $17 billion, which is kind of wild. As you guys know, the United States government has been selling Bitcoin. The Bitcoin that they've acquired through forfeitures, they have been selling. David Sachs again came out there and said that if we didn't actually sell our positions, we would actually be up $17 billion. But since we've sold those, it's actually cost us $17 billion. So you can see by selling our Bitcoin, it's actually put us in a worse position. So now this executive order is saying we're going to hold the Bitcoin, we're going to hold the digital assets, and we're not going to sell the digital assets. So where am I going with all this? I guess that's a good question. The biggest thing here is, obviously here on the channel, we talk a lot about XRP, about Ripple, and things like that. And one of the biggest narratives that have come up through this is that Ripple donating a portion and or part of their monthly escrow to the U.S. stockpile. So again, the United States government came out and was very clear that they were not going to go out and purchase any more of these crypto assets. They're not going to go purchase XRP. They're not going to go purchase Solana, Cardano. They're not even going to go purchase Bitcoin on the open market. They basically said that in the executive order right here. But it didn't say anything about the cryptos donating their portion to the United States government. And so this narrative has actually been put out there. It's been going on since Trump came into office. And it is quite an interesting narrative. I will agree here of Ripple allocating some of this to the United States. Some people, this makes sense to probably some people, others probably not so much. I'm going to give you my honest opinion here. I don't know how I feel yet about if XRP were to release some of their escrow to the United States government, and just say, here's a bunch of money, here's a bunch of XRP, hopefully you don't sell. And so like that's the kind of where I get a little, I don't know how I really feel about this yet. Now, if they handed over their XRP and they, locked it for a certain period of time so that the United States government, couldn't sell it, maybe 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, I don't know, something along those lines, because we do know that Donald Trump is in office for only 4 years. Obviously he's already had a previous presidency, so he's not in here for 8 years, he's in here for 4 years. And we don't know who the next president's going to be in 4 years from now. And what if we get someone in here who's a little less excited about crypto, and they then go out and they start selling the asset versus actually holding the asset? Again, this is an executive order, which means that this executive order can be ripped apart in 4 years because it's not actually been put through Congress and actually approved. So you got to really think about these things. And that's what kind of scares about the United States government, is that we're going to have a whole new party and or a whole new administration coming in 4 years. And if they're not pro-crypto, it's kind of scary when you think about it like that. So yes, it might sound good now, but in 4 years, maybe not so much. And so I do kind of like what they're saying here, is that Ripple allocating a portion of the escrow, giving it to the United States government. And a lot of people are actually talking about this. Again, to each our own on this right here, but it does say there is one scenario here. It says that Ripple paying the fine in XRP. So as you guys know, XRP is still in a dispute, or Ripple is still in a dispute with the SEC. And one of the biggest things out of there was a $125 million fine that XRP would have to pay. And now they're saying, hey, what if we actually paid it to the United States government in XRP, to then where the XRP, to where then the United States government would then hold 125 million of XRP, because now instead of paying it in US dollar, they're paying it in XRP. I actually think that's a brilliant idea. If they're going to have to pay regardless, I mean, I hope that they actually win and they maybe don't have to pay at all. That would be the most ideal situation. But it's not looking like that, considering Judge Torres did come out and make a ruling on this. So that whole ruling would have to probably be thrown out. And that very well could happen. We'll have to sort of see when Paul Atkins actually gets approved and put into office here with the SEC. But really right now, I mean, I think it's actually a sort of a genius thing if they were to say, hey, let's move forward, let's pay the fine, and we'll just, give 125 million XRP to the United States government, and they can actually add it to their stockpile here. Now you have the United States government who is actually owning XRP. So it's kind of a win-win in that scenario, but I could see both sides. I don't know if necessarily I want them to even have to pay the $125 million fine, because that's kind of saying that, hey, we're agreeing to what the ruling was with Judge Torres. We were agreeing that some portion of what we were doing was a security and we're going to pay our fine. Like, I don't know if I like that. But this is one scenario here. And then, like it says, the government taking over all of Ripple's escrow. And I don't know if I agree with this, because it says right here, the transfer would require Ripple to give up XRP tokens worth over $104 billion. I just don't see why Ripple would do that. It doesn't make sense to me for Ripple to do that. I don't see why they would do that. I mean, I could see them giving up a portion of it to the United States government, but all is just insane to me. You're not going to give away $104 billion worth of your XRP to the United States government. So again, I think that there's some pros and cons to this. It's going to be interesting to sort of see how this plays out here, but it would be nice if they somehow worked out a deal with the United States government. As you guys know, one big thing that the United States government is working on right now, and David Sachs and a lot of other people have talked about this, and they even mentioned it during the crypto summit right over here. They did talk about the stable coins, and we do know the RLUSD being under Ripple here, Ripple's stable coin, is probably one of their biggest assets moving forward with that. And to use Ripple, or to use RLUSD, you're going to have to use XRP. And so if the United States government is going to be moving money around in RLUSD, or maybe if that's something down the road that they work out, you're going to need XRP to make that happen. So this is just an interesting scenario. I wanted to play it out for you guys. I don't know if this is actually going to happen. I think this is just sort of a strategy that they put out there. Whether this happens or not, I don't know. It doesn't seem likely to me that this would happen. I mean, you're not going to go hand over $104 billion to the United States government. I just don't see Brad Garlinghouse doing that. That's so much leverage that you're handing away. And like I said, in 4 years from now, you have no idea what the administration is going to be like. You don't know if it's going to be a whole nother party coming in. So that's kind of stressful just thinking about that. Even from a holder myself who holds a substantial amount of XRP, I'm kind of stressed out about that just thinking about the 4 years from now. So just my personal opinion here, but we'll have to sort of see how this plays out, because this right here, although this strategic reserve and this US digital asset reserve was put out here and everyone's excited about that, them basically saying they were not going to add any more to the strategic reserve at this time does kind of put a damper on where crypto's at. So again, this isn't saying that they can't change course here. It's not saying that they're not going to change course. I think it's right now, it's just basically saying that we're not going to be selling any of our crypto assets, and we're not going to be adding to our crypto assets. And hopefully after they do an audit, after they go out and they see, basically a person on the channel actually came out and made a pretty good example of what it is. Like, you're not going to go to the store unless you know what you need from the store. So you have to go look in your pantry and in your refrigerator to see what you actually need to go buy at the store. And so that's exactly a perfect example of, I think, what the White House is doing here, and that they're going to go do an audit on all their agencies. They're going to go collect all the information that they have out there of how much crypto they have and what crypto they have before they actually go out and purchase this. So that was a perfect example someone on the channel actually put out there, and I can appreciate that because it was a great example. And that's, I hope, what the White House is doing here. I truly hope that, but we'll see. I mean, this is fairly new to everyone here. And a lot of people, like I said, are kind of frustrated about everything that's been, that's transpired since January 20th when President Trump has come in. It's kind of been a downfall. And, a lot of people are hoping that we actually bounce back from this. And I do think that we're going to bounce back from this. I do think that there's some really good evidence out here as to why we could. As you guys know, Michael Saylor was at the White House yesterday, and he did talk about how the importance of the U.S. Having a Bitcoin reserve and what it will generate in terms of wealth for the United States. And he's saying here in the next decade that if the United States were actually to put the strategy forward to collect Bitcoin and as much Bitcoin as possible, roughly around 25% of the Bitcoin out there, if they could do that, it would make about $100 trillion in wealth in the next decade for the United States. And this plan is actually a pretty robust plan. If you go through it, I'm not going to go through it right now. I'll make an actual separate video on this. But the strategy for Saylor here is actually a pretty good strategy. I was reading through it. This is actually really, really good. But this is what was presented to Donald Trump yesterday. And it'll be interesting to sort of see if they take this up, because if you want to be the leader in the digital gold, that means you're going to have to go out and purchase a substantial amount of it, because right now they barely hold any Bitcoin at this time, right? Michael Saylor and MicroStrategies being the largest company out there that holds holds Bitcoin, they only hold 2.5%. So that's not that much when you really think about it. And we're trying to get to 25%. So that's pretty wild to think. But again, to each our own on this. This will be interesting to sort of see how this transpires in the next coming months here. But like I said, I don't know what's going to happen with XRP, if they're going to really do this strategy right here. Someone put this bold strategy out there. I don't know if Brad's going to go for it, but to each our own on where it's at. So you let me know your thoughts if this is something that you see Ripple and Brad doing this with XRP, or do you think that this is kind of a crazy idea? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below, so make sure you give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. And with all that said, we're out. Peace out, everyone.